Why do humans believe in gods? Where does religion come from? Gorillas don't have any gods, don't believe in any gods, don't have faith in any gods, don't worship any gods. In the mists of time, humans were once like gorillas. For a long time, no humans had any notion of gods. So, where does this notion originate? Is it just an invention? Dinosaurs lived on Earth for about 165 million years, and went extinct around 65 million years ago. They left zero traces of belief in dinosaur gods. If gods exist, how come they didn't interact with dinosaurs? What about aliens? They are sometimes proposed to be the true source of religion. The gods, we are told, were actually super advanced aliens mistaken for gods. Yet no believer in ancient astronauts says that any aliens visited dinosaurs or gorillas. Funny, that. Alien astronauts are just a different way of referring to gods. They're every bit as likely to have been invented by the human imagination. Not one particle of actual evidence shows that aliens ever came to our planet. Just as not one particle of evidence shows that anyone was born of a virgin, or anyone rose from the dead, or anyone spoke to angels, or anyone performed any miracles. The Bible says that Jesus Christ raised Lazarus from the dead. If this were so, Lazarus would be one of the most famous people in the ancient world. People would have come from far and wide to see him and probe him for knowledge of what death was like. People would have written about him and everything he had to say. Of course, there is no reference to Lazarus outside of the Bible. That's because the whole story was invented to prove that Jesus Christ was the master of life and death. Nearly all of religion comprises assertions backed up by mythos, stories, which gullible, credulous people then believe as literally true. If people weren't gullible and credulous, there would be no religion. It's as simple as that. It really is. The truth of religion is starkly apparent in the Lord, liar, or lunatic trilemma proposed by the Christian writer C.S. Lewis. Lewis said, "I am trying here to prevent anyone saying the really foolish thing that people often say about him. I'm ready to accept Jesus as a great moral teacher, but I don't accept his claim to be God. That is the one thing we must not say. A man who was merely a man and said the sort of things Jesus said would not be a great moral teacher. He would either be a lunatic, on the level with the man who says he is a poached egg, or else he would be the devil of hell. You must make your choice. Either this man was, and is, the Son of God, or else a madman or something worse. You can shut him up for a fool, you can spit at him and kill him as a demon, or you can fall at his feet and call him Lord and God. But let us not come with any patronizing nonsense about his being a great human teacher. He has not left that open to us. He did not intend to. Now it seems to me obvious that he was neither a lunatic nor a fiend. And consequently, however strange or terrifying or unlikely it may seem, I have to accept the view that he was and is God." You can see that Lewis's conclusion is not based on any logic, but on the horror of believing that humans could be taken in by total liars or actual madmen making the most astonishingly grandiose claims. Yet, if he had lived in today's world, Lewis could have gone onto YouTube and found any number of very popular influencers making the most astonishing, grandiose claims, and lying through their teeth about everything. These people routinely pose as cosmic healers, fixers, rescuers, gurus, ascended masters, philanthropists, saviors, messiahs, and so on. They say they are channeling gods or aliens or cosmic forces. They say they have secret knowledge. They say they have acquired forbidden knowledge. They say they are the first to understand the true nature of reality. Many of the influencers making the most grandiose claims about having knowledge of true reality have never been to school and have no qualifications. Why would any rational person ever take such a person seriously? What's more likely? That highly qualified, highly educated people have more knowledge about reality than people with no qualifications and no education, or vice versa. If you opt for the latter, you clearly don't value education, and that says everything that needs to be said about you. You will literally believe anything, no matter how ignorant, uneducated and stupid. You are one of the Dunning-Kruger gang. You don't know how stupid you are, and you don't know how smart intelligent people are. Jesus Christ, like Muhammad, never went to school and had no qualifications. He never wrote down a single thing. Don't you think God would write his divine thoughts for us all to read forever? Could you believe in a God or a prophet who couldn't even write? If you could, then you are exactly the type of credulous, gullible person who will call liars and lunatics prophets and gods. The influencers on YouTube making inflated claims about themselves, very lucratively, are self-evident liars and lunatics. More or less all of them are psychopaths and malignant narcissists, i.e., they suffer from astoundingly serious pathological conditions. These people want to con you, manipulate you, exploit you and use you. They want you to adore them, give them all of your attention, and, above all, give them your slavish devotion, and all your money. And so many of you do exactly that. These people make a lovely life for themselves by constantly lying to you and making mad claims that you find very seductive. These people have no empathy and no morality. They lie without compunction. Since you are empathic and moral, you cannot believe that there are people out there who are the exact opposite. You cannot believe that people would pretend to be empathic and moral, in fact the most empathic and moral of them all, without having one particle of empathy and morality. Your inability to intellectually grasp that people that you believe to be one thing, a wonderful thing, are actually the opposite thing, a disgusting and dangerous thing, is your primary vulnerability. It's what makes it easy for you to be conned by evil manipulators. There are people in the world who know that the best way to get what they want is to pretend to be something totally different from what they actually are, to lie constantly, and to make up the most far-fetched tales possible. These people are experts at storytelling and making you believe their stories. They have been doing it their whole lives. They are performers. They have been actors all their lives. They have never dropped their mask, and have no intention of doing so. They are the main characters in their own stories, characters of cosmic significance, so they say, and they are the classic exemplars of main character syndrome. Cleveland Clinic says, main character syndrome is defined by a series of behaviors in which you see yourself as the main character in the story of your life. You are the protagonist and everyone else is often a sidekick or a villain. You often see yourself as the most important person in the room, and you act according to the narrative of your plot, however you define it. An essential factor in producing religion is these main character people. Every prophet and guru suffers from this syndrome. They say they are possessed by God, or some other God equivalent, such as cosmic consciousness, or alien intelligence, or whatever, or are channeling God, or have been chosen by God, or are the vehicle of God's revelation. So, they proclaim themselves main characters in not just world history, but even in cosmic history. Without these sick, delusional people, liars, psychopaths and malignant narcissists, there would be no religion of the kind that humanity has had to endure. John Duncan said, Christ either deceived mankind by conscious fraud, or he was himself deluded and self-deceived, or he was divine. There is no getting out of this trilemma. It is inexorable. Christ definitely wasn't God, hence was a conscious fraud, or a lunatic. Just like so many influencers on YouTube, many of whom openly say that they have Christ consciousness. They might as well admit that they are as fraudulent and mad as Christ. J. Gresham Machen said, the real trouble is that the lofty claim of Jesus, if the claim was unjustified, places a moral stain upon Jesus's character. What shall be thought of a human being who lapsed so far from the path of humility and sanity as to believe the eternal destinies of the world were committed into his hands? The truth is that if Jesus be merely an example, he is not a worthy example, for he claimed to be far more. Every influencer is claiming to be far more. These narcissists have no humility. They make unjustified claims. They have the loftiest beliefs concerning their own supposed self-importance and significance to the world. They call themselves thought leaders, world historic figures, cosmically chosen individuals, and all the rest of it. In fact, they are psychopaths and malignant narcissists, constantly revealing their pathological nature to anyone with eyes to see and ears to hear. On their own, these people would be preposterous. To succeed, they require another ingredient. Every compulsive liar, if they want to become ultra-successful influencers making incredible amounts of money from suckers, needs people, followers, slaves, who are compulsively attracted to their lies and believe them utterly. Jung said, but besides the possibility of becoming a prophet, there is another alluring joy, subtler and apparently more legitimate: the joy of becoming a prophet's disciple. The disciple is unworthy. Modestly he sits at the master's feet and guards against having ideas of his own. Mental laziness becomes a virtue. One can at least bask in the sun of a semi-divine being. Naturally, the disciples always stick together, not out of love, but for the very understandable purpose of effortlessly confirming their own convictions by engendering an air of collective agreement. Just as the prophet is a primordial image from the collective psyche, so also is the disciple of the prophet. As you see, the true source of religion is incredibly simple and disturbing. It's mental illness. Dinosaurs did not have religion because they were not mentally ill. Gorillas don't have religion because they are not mentally ill. Humans have religion because almost all of them are mentally ill, many extremely seriously. Hegel spoke of a master-slave dialectic playing a decisive role in human affairs. He should also have highlighted the prophet-disciple dialectic. With this dialectic, the prophet is the master and the disciple the slave, but there is no violence or coercion going on. The master does not force slavery on the slave. The slave volunteers to be the master's slave. The horrifying truth of the human condition is that many humans long to be slaves, and are actively looking for masters. They don't feel complete without one. And that's how religions are born. The prophets, the masters, set themselves up as gods or god substitutes, and then the masses flock to them to be their adorers and disciples. Both the prophet and the disciple get exactly what they want. The prophets get to control the masses, and the disciples get the master they always longed for, who gives meaning and purpose to their life, without which they would be lost. The prophet-disciple dialectic basically reflects the social hierarchy of apes. The highest-ranking apes are called alphas. Humans, as the fifth ape, have evolved to be totally attuned to alphas, and to try to be around alphas, and pleasing to them. They always want to win the favor of alphas, since it will improve their chances in life. The question regarding humanity, with its much greater mental capacity, was how the alpha ape game would play out. Would the strongest humans rule? Or would it be the most violent, the most beautiful, the funniest, the hardest working, the smartest? The results are now in. Humanity chose lunatics and liars as its alphas. It loved the humans who could tell the biggest lies, the most seductive and alluring stories, the most enticing fantasies. It wanted those who could most encourage its dreams. Why are influencers, absolutely disgusting human beings who lie constantly and are incredibly seriously mentally ill, so successful? It's because they give the masses what they want. A way to avoid the harshness of reality, a way to live in fantasy. Nearly every religion and spiritual system is about promising some sort of heaven. Liars and lunatics invent a fantasy regarding the ideal world, the promised land for the chosen people, and wait for the masses of disciples to show up and worship them for guiding them to paradise. Build it and they will come. Invent a sufficiently attractive heaven and you will get your adoring worshippers. And contrast it with hell, the opposite of heaven, to threaten the masses with what will happen if they don't worship you. This is the human condition. It's driven by emotions and fantasies. The only way out is for humanity to transition to reason and logic. Rational and logical people would not accept those who currently pass as alphas. Plato, with his Republic, showed us what a world ruled by intellectual alphas would be like. The philosopher kings would be those who best understood the eternal, immutable, perfect forms underlying all true knowledge. No nation implemented Plato's ideas. Funny, that. The world preferred false knowledge based on lies and fantasies, and these were the roots of humanity's religions and spiritual systems. Everything else was downstream of these, including systems such as predatory capitalism, which is alpha religion in the economic sphere, with multi-billionaires serving as the alpha apes to be worshipped by the masses. And that's why humanity is where it is today. If apes were to invent gods, they would worship the alpha apes, which is exactly what humans do with regard to their perceived alphas. Average humans worship the perceived alpha humans, and then project cosmic versions of these and call them gods. Monotheists project a single cosmic alpha, God. Celebrities are often called stars. They might as well be called gods. At any rate, they are worshipped. Humanity is, frankly, insane. If you want a good world, you must cure humanity of its insanity. Lewis's trilemma shows us the whole game. Lewis claimed in effect that God exists because otherwise we would have to admit that humanity is deceitful, insane and evil. Humanity, unfortunately, is deceitful, insane and evil, and the highest product of its deceit, insanity and evil is God. God is not any old lie, he is the biggest lie of all, the supreme delusion. There is no theistic, creator God, intimately concerned with humanity. Anyone who says otherwise is conning you and trying to manipulate and exploit you. The Pythagoreans were right, reality is mathematics. God is mathematics, but that's not a God that any delusional, lying human being wants to accept. God is math. An inscription at the Temple of Apollo in Delphi said, "Know thyself, and thou shalt know the universe and the gods." It should have said, "Know mathematics and thou shalt know thyself, God and the universe." Math is what addresses the self, you, and your body in the physical universe, and the other, others, and their bodies in the physical universe. What is matter? It's simply the other of mind. The physical universe is the mind of all, othered. What is the mind of all? It's God. What are you? You are one of the minds that makes up the mind of all. And this whole thing, reality, is defined mathematically. When math becomes humanity's religion is when humanity will at least be sane and not the victim of the lies and madness of the likes of Yehoshua ben Yosef, aka Jesus Christ. Mainstream religion and spirituality isn't a sign of humanity's sanity and the repository of its highest values. It's the opposite. Mainstream religion and spirituality reflects humanity's maximum lunacy and deceit. It must be overthrown if humanity is to have a sane, rational future where everyone gets a fair chance to live a great life. We have to move beyond alpha apes and their epsilon disciples. We must have a social round table, not a social pyramid. The reign, the tyranny, of the mad, lying, evil alphas must end. Havelock Ellis gave the definitive answer to Lewis's trilemma. He said, "The whole religious complexion of the modern world is due to the absence from Jerusalem of a lunatic asylum. Jesus Christ wasn't God. That's self-evident. He was a madman, suffering from incredibly serious delusions. He lived in a society where people like him weren't locked up, as they should have been, but were allowed to go around infecting everyone else with their madness. Influencers today should be locked up. Instead, they too are allowed to spread their toxic psychopathy and malignant narcissism. They are creating cults left, right and center. No one is prepared to stop them. The Romans stopped Jesus Christ. They crucified him. But the Christian madness went on. That's what happens if you don't root out the cause of all the trouble, human pathology. Humanity must turn to reason and logic. When it does, it will be free of mainstream religion and spirituality, and free of predatory nutcases. Never forget, when it comes to the Lewis trilemma, the liar or lunatic options are the ones to take seriously. You can instantly reject the God option. Jesus Christ was not God. If he were, he would have behaved totally differently from how he did, and the world would be an absolutely different place. If God actually incarnated on earth, wouldn't earth from then on be a paradise? Look around you. Are you in paradise or hell? No God ever came here. You can be 100% sure of that. Schopenhauer said, "For the world is hell, and men are on the one hand the tormented souls and on the other the devils in it." Doesn't that sound like an accurate description of humanity? For that to change, humanity must cure the worst devils of their psychopathy and malignant narcissism. It needs to get rid of mainstream religion and spirituality, and ban influences.